Welcome to Darling Harbour. As you can have a look behind us, this is a great little spot to do some DG. As you can see, there's lots of foot traffic, there's lots of things happening. You might even notice that I'm wearing a jumper. We are in the middle of winter right now, and that brings me to today's topic, which I think is a very important topic, is how can you get good at something if you don't practice it all year round? If you have to take 6 months off because it's too cold in your city, how can you get really good at something? That's what I want to talk about. Before we kick it off, I'm Dave, and this channel is dedicated to giving you no BS, novel dating advice for the modern man. Top link in the description. You can check out my website, onemanslifemission.com, and sign up to do some coaching with me and learn the sweet art of cold approach in Sydney CBD. Even right here you can do it. But I want to talk about how there's a lot of coaches, and it's not really me hating on other coaches, it's more me pointing out the obvious that I think a lot of you guys should be aware of. If you have a professional sportsman, right, and he takes 6 months off his sport, do you think he'll be performing at his optimal best? Or you have someone who is hitting the gym and getting jacked and building up their physique so they can look as best and as strong as they can and get as jacked as they can. If they take 6 months off, do you think that would affect? Do you think they would lose the gains that they put on over the 6 months of hard work, and then 6 months off they'll lose the gains, right? The same as someone who is a professional sports person. Let's just say the world's best soccer players. How would they perform if they had to take 6 months off of the year? Now that brings me to the point of today's video. Is this is the middle of winter. I have shorts on. I'm just wearing a jumper. In the middle of winter I can do DG, so that means 365 days a year I can go out and practice my craft. And if you are in Sydney CBD, that means that you can learn Daygame, the most advanced method, Indirect game, by myself. I think I'm the only person in the world teaching it at the moment. Eventually the rest of the coaches will come around when they realize that I'm the only one teaching it and I'm the best at it. But how do you get good at something if you can't do it 365 days a year? You can't. So this is why a lot of the methodology that comes out of, say, the northern hemisphere, there's large swells. There's many countries in the northern hemisphere that have coaches, and those coaches can only really practice their craft 6 months of the year. And if they are some of the biggest coaches in the world, they're not capable of traveling, or will they very, very rarely travel to first world cities to do coaching. You will notice that a lot of them, they're in third world countries when it's winter in their own country, and then they go back in summer. I have noticed also that a lot of the European coaches during summer, they're not coaching in London, they're not coaching in Germany or France or Italy. They're coaching in Poland, or, well, before they used to do that in Ukraine, not anymore, probably never again in our lifetimes. They will go to Eastern European countries or easier countries to do coaching, and that's perfectly okay. If you have a bunch of newbies that want to just build up some momentum, that's perfectly okay. If you got someone that can't even hook, can't even get a date, can't even get a solid number, is struggling hardcore in a place like Britain, that's perfectly okay. But if you're a professional, if you, you're hitting the gym, you're an intelligent guy, you can take instruction, and you live in Sydney CBD, you don't really need to go on a travel immersion. Or if you're in Europe and you want to come over all the way over to Sydney, you're welcome to come join me. But in the off season, say winter over in Europe or North America or Canada, it's winter, it's cold. Instead of going to a third world country, why don't you come to Sydney CBD and practice your craft here, so that you can gain some momentum in the off season, and then the next summer, the next peak season back in Europe in summer, you can go back there with some real skills. This is something that I think most people out there miss. They think that once you gain a skill, you keep it forever, which is fine, but I would argue that learning proper game, Daygame, Indirect Daygame in a first world city like this is something that you have to keep working on it consistently, or like lifting weights, you lose your gains. This is something that I don't think many people take on board, and I try to explain this to my clients when they come in and do an immersion with me. I explain, look, I've put all of these things in place that at the end of the boot camp, at the end of the immersion, you need to, you're on your own at that point, and you need to put in the time and effort yourself to continue the momentum going and continue learning and improving, because this is what I would say is a lifestyle. To get really good at it, especially if you look at me, I'm in my 40s, both my hips are gone. If you have a look at the intro, it's all steel. I'm not jacked, I'm not tall either. I'm relatively short, and so for myself, when I'm out there if I'm approaching girls above my mate value, I'm gonna get rejected most of the time off the approach. And so I'm gonna need to have some proper methods in place. Obviously online game doesn't work. Online game is punching down, so is social media game. There is a social media arms race happening at the moment, and people haven't properly realized that yet, but it's happening and it's real, and engaging in that arms race is not very smart. I would argue learning cold approach, where there's very little men that are actually going out there putting in the time and effort to learn these things. This is the hack that most men don't put the time and effort in to learn, and that's why when I mentioned that a lot of the coaches in, say, the Northern Hemisphere during winter can't game, that just puts them in intermediate at best, at most. So while they're at home swiping right on Tinder and playing around with their social media or flying to third world countries, I'm here. This is the off season here in Sydney CBD, and if you have a look around, you can game anywhere. You can game anywhere, and it's perfectly okay, But yeah, I just wanted to make that video and point that out to you guys, because I think practicing something over time is it's the only way to get really good at something is to practice it over and over and over again and be consistent over time. It's just like lifting weights. So if you like this video, click the subscribe button, click the bell icon, and top link in the description. Sign up to do some coaching with me. See you guys next video.